What's good, YouTube? It's your boy JC here with Everything Reacts TV, where we react to literally everything. So today we are reacting to Mr. Ballen. He's telling us 3 places where you can go, but people went anyway. If that should say don't come inside, why the fuck you gonna walk inside? He has a whole series about people going places where they can't go, thinking that they just thinking wrong. And today, he's got a 30-minute video. So, how I think I'm gonna do it is react to each one separately. Because 30-minute video sounds like no fun to edit. So we're gonna start off with the first one. Shout out to Mr. Ballen. If you don't know who he is, go subscribe to this man's channel. You will never be bored ever again. You will never be bored ever again. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the vid.
Today, we're going to look at 3 places you can't go and people who went there anyways. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload 2 or 3 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button needs a pair of socks, offer to loan them a pair of yours. But make sure they're the kind of socks that immediately slip down under your heel into the shoe as soon as you start walking. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Bro, I know 3 to 5 uploads back, so what do you need from me? I'm here every day.
In 1990, 31-year-old John O'Brien was a landscaper in a town just outside of Chicago, Illinois. In January of that year, he and his friend David decided they wanted to escape the cold Chicago winter and go on some vacation to somewhere nice and warm. And so they decided to book a trip to the very sunny Caribbean islands of Trinidad and Tobago. They left for their trip just a couple of days later, which was believed to be January 8th or January 9th, and the hotel they were staying in was right near the airport in Trinidad. So they land in Trinidad, they get off their plane, they make their way out of the airport, they go to their hotel, they drop their luggage, and then they headed out to explore the town. And over the next couple of days, they not only explored Trinidad, but also the island of Tobago, which was a 4-hour boat ride away. And they had great food, they saw some really cool attractions, and just overall, they had a chance to relax in the warm weather while all their friends back home were freezing in Chicago. And so, by all accounts, their vacation was going exactly to plan until Sunday, the 14th of January. This was the day before they were supposed to fly back to Chicago. That day, John began complaining of some unnamed health issue, which has not been made public, so we don't know what it is, and he went to some drugstore in town in Trinidad to look for a specific medication for this unnamed health issue. But the drugstore did not carry this medication, so John left and he went to another drugstore and another store, but nobody had this medication. And so by the time John got back to the hotel and saw David, David would later remark that John was not only distraught about not having this medication, but John was disoriented. Like whatever this health issue was, it was starting to manifest itself in this kind of disoriented state that John was in because it was not being treated. But eventually, David decided that John was okay enough that they did not need to call a hospital or call a doctor, and the 2 men decided to just go to bed because after all, they had a very early flight the next morning. So the 2 men climb into their respective beds, which are in the same room, 2 twin-size beds, and they fall asleep. But about an hour to maybe an hour and a half after David had fallen asleep, he wakes up to some man standing next to his bed, choking him. He's grabbing his throat and throttling him. And so David has no time to respond to what's going on. He just starts grabbing this guy's hands and he manages to push them off of him. And then this guy who's standing next to his bed grabs the lamp next to him and smashes David with it. David, from getting hit, falls out of the bed. He lands on the ground, and this guy, his attacker, jumps on top of him, and the 2 men are fighting. But eventually, David manages to overpower this guy, and he kicks him off. And as soon as he does that, he realizes this guy that's been attacking him is John, and John is completely naked. He's got no clothes on. And so John just stands up and David's looking at him like, what's going on? And John just runs out of the hotel room. He ends up running down the hall. He goes down the stairs. He runs past the front desk, out the front doors of the hotel, and just takes off running. And so John runs for several minutes until he reaches the airport, but instead of going through the front gates, he goes to the side of the front gates where there are these huge chain link fences with barbed wire at the top. And John, again, wearing no clothes, climbs up the chain link fence and then manages to navigate the barbs at the top and drops over onto the other side. But where he landed, although it was on airport property, it was kind of like a trap because this airport had two fences around its perimeter back to back. And so where John landed was like this grassy no man's land between these two fences. But John was on this kind of deranged mission, so he stands up and instead of trying to get back out again, he turns and climbs the next fence, the one that is closer to the airport. And so he climbs up this fence, he manages to get past all the barbed wire at the top, and he drops into the parking lot on the other side. He stands up and just continues running towards the main building of the airport. But between him and the main building of this airport is this huge concrete wall that doesn't look like it has any place to grab onto to climb over it. But John runs up to this wall and manages to climb up and over the wall. And where he landed on the other side was right next to this security guard shack. And so he comes crashing down, and the 4 security guards that are in this shack, they see him come over the wall. They see this naked guy just suddenly appear. And so they charge out to apprehend him and figure out what's going on. But John apparently attacked them. We don't know exactly what he did, but he managed to overpower all 4 of them, and he stole their 4-wheel drive vehicle. And so John just bombs away from the security guard shack with the 4 security guards chasing him on foot. And John, he weaves around the outside of the main airport building, and he heads out onto the tarmac. Out on the tarmac, there were several planes that were moving into position for takeoff. One of those planes was this huge British Airways jet airliner passenger plane that was actually the next to take off. They'd already fired up their engines, and they were sitting at the top of the runway just waiting for clearance. And John just drives directly into this plane. But the vehicle he was driving, this little 4-wheel drive vehicle, it was not tall enough to actually strike the main body of this plane. So instead, when he hit this plane, he basically got wedged underneath one of the wings. At this point, the 4 security guards that had been attacked and had their vehicle stolen from them, I mean, they're running towards the tarmac, but they've also alerted other security personnel in the airport who are all streaming out onto the tarmac towards this British Airways plane and this vehicle and John. And so as they are descending on the scene, the security guards would see John from the passenger seat of this 4-wheel drive vehicle. He stands up and they can see he's got a pretty nasty cut on his shoulder. And John reaches up and starts rubbing his hand on the underside of the plane, which had been damaged from running into it. And there was oil leaking off the underside of this plane. And John began rubbing this oil around and then dabbing it into his big wound on his shoulder. And then after packing it with this oil, John leapt out of the wrecked 4-wheel drive vehicle and then just took off running away from all these security guards and away from this plane. And in the chaos of this moment, all these security guards and all the airport personnel that were descending on this scene, they managed to lose sight of John. He disappeared on the backside of this plane. And so all these security guards and airport personnel, they come to a stop about 100 feet away from this plane and this wrecked vehicle, and they're just kind of staring at it, wondering, what are we going to do next? They're calling other agencies to come in and assist with this situation, when all of a sudden, somebody notices John about 300 feet away on the other side of the plane. He comes out from behind a building. And so he's running towards the plane, he's running towards this wall of security guards and other airport staff, and John, he manages to get all the way up to the plane before anybody can come up and apprehend him. And when he reaches the plane, he stops for a second, looks up at the engine of this airplane that's still spinning, it's been turned on, and John jumps into the engine, and instantaneously, John ceases to exist. He is completely decimated. No one knows for sure what actually caused John's rampage, although it's assumed it had to do with whatever this unnamed health issue was. Ultimately, his death was ruled a suicide.
Bruh, hold up, man. Alright. Let's dissect what the fuck just happened. So you in your bed, right? you and your mans, y'all just had a great night, you know what I'm saying? Y'all come back to the crib and you wake up to that nigga choking you with no clothes on. With no clothes, like literally, like you butt naked. And then you're hopping fences. Like, look, okay, when you hop a barbed wire fence, it's like, I've never done it, but it's just like, dude, there's so many shits that could go wrong. You could literally slit your wrist and GG. Now, when you have clothes on, most people that try to do that shit, they have clothes on. Man's was booty, butthole, naked. So we can assume the first time he got over it, he got cut. Okay? Now the second time, we know he got cut. We know he got cut because he wasn't strong enough to kill dude. So there's no way he was strong enough to do that 2 times. And then he how do you it's only one, how do you like get past 4 security guards? Like, these security guards are paid to secure. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they're paid to secure. They're not. And there's 4 of y'all. Y'all wasn't able to grab this nigga, or was y'all just scared to touch him because he was naked? Like, let's be honest about this, okay? He steals your 4-wheeler butt naked. That means his ass cheeks is on the seat. Okay? So he crashes into the plane. This is perfect opportunity to get this nigga. Okay? This man puts jet fuel on his cut. Like, at this point, I'm scared because I'm like, this guy's on some other. He's on some other. And then y'all lose track of him? Like, how do you lose track of somebody that's naked in an airport where the planes are? And how? Like, I've been to an airport multiple times. It's flat, bro. It's flat. Like, you could see, you can obviously see somebody. And then he said 300 feet. 300 feet. That's far, but that's not 300 feet is a lot. But this nigga jumped into the engine of the plane, bro. That shit is a blender. That shit is literally a blender. Bro, what was he on? And put it in the comments. Put what was he smoking? Like, only place I know that has double barbed wire fences is prisons. And that's to keep that shit in, keep whatever out. So, I'm not saying that he deserved that, but you neglected all of the signs. And you were doing, I don't know what drugs you were doing, but you were on something. But yeah, we about to watch part 2 next, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment what kind of drugs this man was on. Like, what do you think happened? Let me know. Make sure you subscribe to Mr. Ballen and like his video and comment on his video, because he's the fucking man. Alright, but thanks for watching, y'all. Part 2 coming soon.